language and how that affects our experience of reality. Many years ago, I was sitting in the temple at the ashram, and I became aware of a particular thought. It was a troubling thought. It was a self-deprecating thought. Some thought about being not good enough. And as I was noticing the structure of that thought, I think the exact wording of the thought was, "You're such a failure. You are such a failure." And in the moment, I was just noticing the structure of the sentence, "You are such a failure." For some reason, rather than getting pulled into it like I had so many times previously to that moment, I was just noticing how the flow of that sentence, "You are such a failure." I was noticing, well, to be the failure, what precedes that? Well, I have to be a you. You are such a failure. To be a failure, I have to be this you. So I was then considering, who is the you? And then I became, well, Mitch is the you. Mitch is such a failure. So in that moment I realized, oh, well, to be a failure, first I have to be identified as Mitch. I have to be Mitch to then be a failure. And so then I was noticing that there was an awareness that preceded Mitch, who is then a failure. There was a preceding essence of being, pure awareness, that precedes being Mitch, who is then the failure. And I was noticing how this language pulled me into this construct of separation. There is Mitch, who is a failure. And the language itself, the linear progression of the language, pulls me into a particular way of seeing reality that is sequential, linear, like that. Failure, such, Mitch. Mitch is such a failure. This linear language, I was aware that the language itself was creating a separation construct. There was me, Mitch, who was separate from everyone else and was failing at being, some standard of, human accomplishment or something, whatever the specifics were of the failure on that day. I wasn't measuring up somehow. So first there has to be a me, a Mitch, who is the failure. And I became aware that language itself, the structure of language, creates a separation construct. There's Mitch, and then there's failure. There's Mitch and other people, Mitch and the weather, Mitch and the building, Mitch and the food. Everything is labeled and creates a linear construct that is inherently separating all the various elements of wholeness. This wholeness, which is inherent, is separated out through the language construct itself. The language itself creates a separating construct. There's Mitch and not Mitch. There's me and not me. There's me and the cup that I'm reaching for, the cup. Mitch picks up the cup. There's a separation construct there. Because I rested back prior to all that, and I was aware that there is this presence that I am, this absolute essence that precedes that is just wholeness. That's what opened up in that moment, like a portal in reality opened, and I was now experiencing that actually all of it, my body, the carpet I was sitting on in the temple, the building, the planet, all of it, one elegant wholeness, one absolute eternity expressing itself temporarily as various unique waves of one ocean of consciousness, one absolute totality of being. And I realized that the language that we use inherently creates a separation construct. It allows there to be then subject and object, me and not me, self and other, the language itself, the linear language. And I started considering how all the earth languages are like that. They're all linear. They flow left to right or right to left. There's some languages that you read right to left and some you read left to right. But all earth languages are linear. Many years later, a movie called arrives. That's why there was a pause. I was going to say a movie arrives called Arrival. And I was like, oh, I'm using the same word. So once again, I'm pulled into the construct. Language is a dilemma. So just today I was exploring this with someone in a phone exploration. This is a person who is very open to these kinds of explorations. And I mentioned that there is this movie called Arrival. And we started riffing, and he was asking me about the movie. And I said, well, in this movie, they're in a very powerful way exploring the effect of language and our perception of reality. And that in this movie, there's an arrival of 12 objects. They call them shells in the movie, like we would like classically say like a spaceship, something from elsewhere arrives, but they don't look like, machinery. It looks more organic. It looks, like a organic stone or a shell. In the movie, they call them shells. Well, 12 of these shells arrive at various points around the globe. And they hover just above the ground, and there's all kinds of turmoil that it creates within the human population. And the militaries of all the different countries and the governments are the ones that end up going there and taking charge of the situation and interacting with these beings that have arrived. And the way the movie begins is with our main character, played by Amy Adams. She's a professor of linguistics at a college. So she's an expert in languages, has obviously studied them and mastered many of them. And when the movie begins, she's on her way to teach a class at her college. And what she's going to begin teaching them that day is the language that we call Portuguese. And she says to them that many people have asked over the years, why does Portuguese sound so different than the other Romance languages? And she says, the people who created that language viewed language as a form of art. This is a clue right at the beginning of the movie that we're going to be exploring the very nature of language and the effect that that has on us. And so all the students are quite distracted, and one of the students asks her, the professor, could she please turn on the TV? So she does. There's a TV in the classroom, and so she turns it on. And this is where then she finally becomes aware of these 12 craft, these shells that they call them in the movie. They call them shells, have arrived around the planet. And then an alarm goes off and all the students are dismissed, and there's mass chaos going on around the globe, and all the various governments are trying to interact with these beings that have arrived. Well, we now have a scene where she's being visited by a government agent. They know of her because she's got a top secret security clearance, because she's done work with them before regarding language situations. And they come to her and ask her, they have a recording of the beings that they've been trying to interact with, and they play it for her and they ask her to interpret it. And she says, well, that would be impossible. I need to be with them and interact with them. So they reluctantly agree, and they let her come on board because she already has a top secret security clearance. And now we see her interacting with the beings. And she realizes, she's the one who understands, that we're not going to be able to communicate with these beings verbally, because the way they speak is a particular type of language that is kind of reminiscent of when we hear the sound that whales make when they communicate. Kind of has a sound, something similar to that, these beings that she's interacting with. And she realizes that we won't be able to communicate with them verbally, so she brings in a whiteboard. The next visit in there, she brings in a whiteboard to try to communicate with them visually. And so she writes the word human in English, Human. She writes that on the board, and then she points to herself as she's interacting with the beings. Now these beings, we see them and we notice that they have 7 appendages, kind of like a squid. They kind of look like a squid or an octopus, kind of that kind of thing. And they've got 7 appendages, so they refer to them as heptapods. Hept means 7, and pod is appendages. I think pod might even mean feet. I can't remember what pod means. But anyway, 7 legs, 7 appendages. So they call them heptapods. And she writes human on the board. Notice how it's a linear language. You read it left to right. You read the H, the U, the M-A-N, and you sound that all together and it becomes human. So that word is a linear progression that we then refer to ourselves as human in the English language. Well, when they reply to her, it's a great surprise to all the, government people that have been trying to communicate with them, because she's the first one to solve this dilemma of communication with these beings. And so when she does the human communication on the whiteboard with them, and she then points to herself, they then lift up one of their appendages, and out of their appendage they comes kind of squirting out, almost as if it's like ink or something, or some sort of part of them comes out. And instead of being a linear language of some sort, it's a circle. It's circular. It's non-linear. The way that they're communicating to her is happening all at once. It's not a progression. It's not sequential. The communication happens all at once, and it's circular. It's round, and it's all there in one burst. This round emanation that comes out. It's happening all at once. It's a circle. So she starts immersing herself in this non-linear language that they share with her, which then we notice in the movie, she starts having experiences with this young daughter of hers who is sick. And because of our minds having been indoctrinated with a linear language, when we enter into this movie, usually what most people will think is going on there, when we see these images of this young girl with an illness, we think she's having memory of a daughter that she had that died of an illness at a very young age. That's what our minds, if we're immersed in a linear construct like we are on Earth with linear languages, we assume she's having memories of a daughter that died of an illness. Well, as it continues to progress and she continues to be ever more immersed in this language, she keeps having these moments, these that we get to see, that they portray to us in the movie, these visionary moments. And we think she's remembering, but it turns out, because she's now immersing in a non-linear language, she's now starting to experience reality as it actually is, which is non-linear. On Earth, with Earth languages, we think there's sequential time. We think there's linear progression. That's the way we experience reality in this normal way of perceiving reality. She starts perceiving reality because she's now immersed in a non-linear language. It's changing how she experiences reality. Her perspective, her perception of reality is shifting. And it turns out she's not remembering a daughter that she had that died of an illness. She's actually tapping into a daughter that she is going to have that will die of an illness. It's a forward moment. And if I just pause there for a moment, notice what I just said, a forward moment. The words that I'm now using to try to describe non-linearity inherently are linear. The words are a dilemma. So it's actually impossible to try to describe non-linear reality through a linear language construct. This is why in the ancient lineages, the emphasis is on direct experience, meditation, chanting, the creative arts, poetry, music, dance, visual arts. There are many ways of shifting attention. It really comes down to that. It's all a play of attention. And so even though we are on Earth and experiencing through a linear language construct, these practices like meditation, chanting, the creative arts, out in nature, witnessing a sunset, a sunrise, holding a baby in our arms, a little puppy, a little kitty cat. There are many ways that we can naturally drop in that's prior to language, the very essence of our being. In this very moment, as you're listening to these words, there is the breath. This is one of the ways that we've used throughout the ages to access the eternal essence that we are. We can notice our breath. In this moment, you can become aware of your breath. Notice there's in-breaths and there's out-breaths. Letting each in-breath be a little bit longer and slower, and each out-breath be a little bit longer and slower. Aware of the chant that I'm playing in the background, the melody of that, the feel of your body in this moment, the sound of my voice. And there's in-breaths and out-breaths. Notice, become aware of the breath and let it be without any strain. Just let the in-breath elongate. Let it last longer. Let it be more slowly drawn in. And same on the out-breath. Let it be exhaled more slowly, extending the duration that each out-breath lasts. Same with each in-breath. And if you like, you can play with breathing in through your nose and out your mouth. You don't have to do it that way. That's just one of the many ways that have been explored for thousands and thousands of years by beings interested in exploring the true nature of reality. We can become aware of our breath, long and slow on the in-breath, and long and slow on the out-breath. Each in-breath nice and long and slow. And each out-breath nice and long and slow, just focusing on the breath. If we get distracted in any thoughts or anything like that, we can be less interested in those and more interested in the breath. Letting each in-breath be nice and long and slow. And each out-breath nice and long and slow. Letting the whole body relax. Resting in the very stillness of being. There's a chance to become aware of awareness. That's a funny way to say it, but actually, once again, I'm using words to try to describe something that's beyond the words. We can become aware of awareness. We can sort of rest back into the stillness, this awareness that we are, that's aware of the sound of my voice, aware of the chant playing in the background in this studio that I'm in, here at my studio. I'm playing an Om Namah Shivaya chant that you're hearing lightly in the background. There's the breath. There's the sound of my voice. There's the feel of your body. Notice how your body relaxes. When you let your breath be long and slow, that lets the body know that there's nothing to be concerned about. And so it will start to relax. The body will start to relax with each long, slow in-breath and each long, slow out-breath, letting all the parts of the body relax. The feet, the legs, the torso, shoulders, the arms, the hands, the neck, the face, the whole body. Relaxing with each in-breath and out-breath. And the nervous system relaxes. The organs relax. And there can be a resting, where we rest back. We can rest back into presence. And notice how this awareness that you are is not a physical thing. You couldn't grab hold of the awareness and show it to someone. And yet it's real, pure awareness, peaceful and calm. And it's not limited to your body. Your body is a vibrational occurrence. Everything in the form realm is a vibration. It's all one elegant wholeness, expressing as many waves, vibrational waves. And the body is also a vibrational wave. And the awareness of the body is not limited to the body. Notice you can roam out beyond the body. You can become aware of the body and that the body is in a particular environment. If you happen to be in a room, you can be noticing that you're aware that the body's in a room. If you're outside, you can become aware that the body is on a planet. We are aware that there's this larger reality beyond the body. We can expand out, out, out in all directions. Notice, there's no edge to the awareness. It is edgeless. It doesn't have edges. That's the elegant wholeness. Everyone is this. We're all connected in this way. We're all awareness and also unique. In every moment, in every sound, in every heartbeat, the love we are within, this loving presence, this compassion, this stillness, this absoluteness that we are. We can rest in that. Pure awareness that's inherently kind, patient, gentle, compassionate, natural. In every moment, in every moment, in every moment, within every sound. There it is. Let's find it. In every moment. Ooh, yeah. Within every sound. In every heartbeat. The love we are within. Ooh. Resting back into that stillness that we are. Om Namah Shivaya. Jivan Mukti Om. Om Namah Shivaya. Jivan Mukti Om. Om Namah Shivaya. I honor the absolute eternal essence that permeates all reality. We are that. Jivan Mukti. Jivan means our individual expression, our lived experience in a body, and Mukti means liberation. We can be liberated while living in a body. Two English words that came to me many years ago that also hint at this oneness, this playfulness, this liberation while in a body are bliss cruiser. Bliss cruiser. Oh, bliss cruiser. Jiva Mukti Om. Om, bliss cruiser. Jivan Mukti Om. Jiva Mukti. Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. The love we are within. We can rest in this. We can let our attention rest in this stillness.